Hey, everybody, come on in. Come on in. I'm super excited about today's podcast. I have a very special guest, and I'm just excited to talk about my transformation journey with you guys. So come on in. We're going to get started in a little bit. Today, we're going to be talking about transformation, mind, body, and spirit. I'm going to be sharing a little bit about my weight loss journey, or a lot about it, but more than just that, more than just shedding the pounds, I'm going to be talking about all the other things that I shed during that experience. The things that I was confronted with, the bad habits, the reality checks, and a lot of it is thanks to my personal coach and trainer who helped me along this 9-month transformation journey that I went on. He really came during the last leg of my journey and helped me just take things up a notch and challenge different parts of me that needed challenging. And I'm super thankful just to have a conversation with him about what does true health look like, not just from a natural standpoint and a physical standpoint, but what does health look like in your mind, in your spirit, holistically? So I'm just excited to talk more about that today. Let me know in the chat, leave a comment. Let me know if you can hear me. And we're going to get started in just a little bit. I can't wait to bring him on and just introduce you guys to him and talk more about it. I've been wanting to just share more about my process for so long, and now it is finally time for that. Yay! Okay, so if you can hear me good, leave a thumbs up and let me know in the chat. And we're going to get started soon. I'm streaming live on my YouTube channel and on my Facebook account as well. And okay, so guys, we're going to go in depth today, okay? We're going to be able to ask Coach JT some questions, but I also am going to be sharing with you guys some pictures. I'm going to be sharing some before and after photos. I'm going to be sharing, just my process, not the entire process, right? You can talk to him more about that. He is the expert, but I'm going to be showing you guys pictures of like the meals that I was eating before I went on this journey, and then kind of showing you after I got into this reset and this phase of renewal, how that kind of shifted a bit, some of the things I learned, some of the insights and takeaways that I got from it. So get ready to ask any questions that you have. I feel that you're going to get so much value out of this talk today. All right. So, guys, without further ado, I am going to get ready to introduce our guest speaker for today. Give me 1 second to share my screen. Let me see. Hold on, guys. Hold on. Okay. JT Tapias is not your, let me make sure you guys are able to see my screen. Hold on. Okay. Can you guys see it? I haven't done a live stream like this in a while, so I'm just being sure. JT Tapias is not your average counselor. Armed with a master's degree in substance abuse and eating disorders, he's also certified as a nutritionist through Precision Nutrition. Can you guys see this? Wait, I want to make sure you can see it. Can you guys see my screen that I'm sharing? Sorry, I'm trying to see it refresh on my Facebook. Hold on. Oh, here, this is what I'm trying to show. Okay. It's been a while, guys. Be patient with me. All right. JT Tapias is not your average counselor. Armed with a master's degree in substance abuse and eating disorders, he's also certified as a nutritionist through Precision Nutrition for more than 2 decades. That's a long time. JT has been on a mission to revolutionize lives through fitness and nutrition. He firmly believes that nutrition accounts for 90% of our outcomes, which that is definitely true, from just going through this whole experience, which is why he integrates pastoral counseling, nutritional science, and habit formation into everything he does. By viewing nutrition through the lens of addiction, it's so cool to read this because it's like he lives this out just working with him. JT has crafted the transformative Empty Your Bucket plan, offering clients a holistic path to lasting change. His goal: to deliver a complete 360-degree solution that addresses every facet of health, ensuring profound and sustainable transformation. JT lives in Port St. Lucie, Florida, with his wife, Anna Maria, and their two daughters, Hannah and Sarah Maria. Sarah Mia. Okay, I want to make sure that I pronounce that the right way. So we are going to be just chatting a little more with him. I'm so excited to have him on here. Welcome, JT. Coach
Karolyne, thank you so much.
JT.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I'm so excited to have you on my podcast. I really felt when I got to a point, so I had my baby October 8th, 2023. And I had a postpartum scare, actually. I don't know if I told you this, but I ended up in the hospital for severe preeclampsia postpartum about like a week after having her. And they had me in the hospital. They had me on magnesium. I couldn't eat anything. My blood pressure was super high. And it was kind of a wake-up call for me because I've never had a health scare in like related to blood pressure or anything like that. And my diet prior to having my baby was like sugar, salt, just eating good because I like to eat. I like to cook. I have another YouTube channel, Karolyne in the Kitchen, where I cook a lot. And it was that was my fourth child, and that was the heaviest that I had ever been in my life. I was close to 200 pounds. And so with that experience, with that being the heaviest I had ever been, because all my other pregnancies, I didn't ever get to that weight. And then just with that health scare, ending up in the hospital. And also along with that, knowing that I felt like God led me to compete in an upcoming pageant, the one I just did, Miss Florida USA. I was like, I need to change something. I need to go on a health journey. So I started my health journey. And I just started doing like basic things that I knew that I thought was the right thing to do. Like I was just doing it on my own. I was like, okay, let me do less desserts because I would make dessert all the time. Let me do less sugar. Let me drink more water. So I started just making little tweaks and changes like that. And then, I believe that as the Holy Spirit just gave me wisdom here and there, like I would just use common sense to figure out, okay, what's healthy, what's not healthy. But I felt like I was trying to like just shoot and come up with a solution without having the true knowledge and understanding. And I started working out. When I first started working out, I would just do at-home workouts. I could barely like make it to like 10 minutes working out. Like 10 minutes was like hard for me. But as I continued along my journey, I felt like the Holy Spirit was like, okay, a little more, a little more. So I was able to actually get a lot of weight loss just in that first batch of my journey. I went from, I don't know if you have the numbers, I can pull it up, but I had lost, I believe, at least 30 or 40 pounds already. But then I felt like I hit a plateau, right? I felt like, okay, I'm stopping with the weight loss. I don't know what's next. I don't know anything else better that I can do. And I want something sustainable because the last pageant that I was in, Mrs. international pageant, I was Mrs. Haiti International, I did the keto diet. And that's probably why I had gained all the weight back and more, because the keto diet is not sustainable. And I really felt like the Lord was like, okay, you need to, it's not just a one-time thing trying to lose weight. Like, there needs to be a lifestyle change and there needs to be a shift in you. And it's bigger than just weight loss, right? And I started doing research online and, just looking at different transformation videos and things like that, and just trying to be led in the right direction. And I came across another Christian YouTuber, Ashley Empowers, and she was sharing her journey with the weight loss and what she went through. And she said that she worked with you. And one thing that stood out to me with what she said is, I wasn't just looking for any personal trainer. I wasn't looking for just any coach just to lose the pounds. I said, God, I want you to give me a man of God or someone who has biblical principles, someone who is not just about the outside, but it's also about the inside as well. So when I heard about you, I was like, okay, let me jump on this opportunity and, just reach out to him, set up a consultation. And I'm just so thankful that you were willing to work with me. I'm so thankful that you were actually even willing to sponsor me and support me in my pageant journey, and challenge me. You gave me that initial challenge for my first phase and say, hey, if you do this, I'm going to keep working with you. So I just wanted to bring you on the podcast so we can have a conversation about just all these different ideas surrounding weight loss, transformation, but even like some of the hard spots that we get to, because I had some challenges during the process, but how that makes us a better person from the inside out.
100%, 100%. So a lot of the things that you mentioned, Karolyne, I think are things that I hear very often, right? You go out and you do the best you can. Most people have an idea of like, okay, I always joke and I say, hey, if you were stuck on an island and I said, hey, you can't get out of the island until you actually lose the weight, you would figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Which speaks about, it's not a knowledge gap. So if there's not a knowledge gap, then the question is, what's the challenge?
Mm.
And you started at 137 when you came in to the program,
Wow.
and you ended at 121, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was your those were your final numbers. And so then the question is, okay, how do you go from being stomped at 137 and 121, right? And what most people think, the first thing that comes to mind is, what kind of workouts were you doing? Interestingly enough,
Yeah.
I say all the time, actually, oftentimes working out is one of the things that actually gets in your way. That's a very polarizing idea, right? Because that's what we think. We think, hey, well, if I need to lose weight, I need to get into the gym.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and of course that is part of the process, but it's not the beginning of the process. And so we kind of do things backwards. And the idea and the philosophy that we subscribe to is that 80 to 90% of your results will come from proper nutrition.
Mm.
And that doesn't mean just dynamics. Eat this, don't eat that. There's more to that equation.
Yeah. And that was crazy for me to get past. Like, my brain, there were so many times in the process where you're like, trust me, I've been
Mhm.
doing this, like the not working out thing and not just depending on the workouts and the focus on nutrition, because I felt like the harder I work out, the better results I'm going to get. So it really was a mind shift and really trusting the process to
Mhm.
be
Mhm.
able to see that through. So yeah, that was one of
Yeah.
the biggest takeaways that I got.
Yeah, that's the polarizing idea. I come from the world of gyms. I've owned and operated gyms for the past 23 years. And so of course I'm an advocate for training. I train myself every single day. But the thing that I say to most people when they first come on the program is, we want to go after the low hanging fruit, right?
Mm.
We want to make sure that we focus on the thing that's going to bring the biggest return on investment, and that is nutrition and a specific kind of cardio, which we can talk a little bit more about, which
Yes.
targets glycogen storages that usually sit in your liver and your muscle, and the compounding effect of that is called fat. And so, we got laser beam focused on the activities that yield the biggest dividends in the shortest amount of time.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And I want to share at some point too, just some of the meals I was doing prior to coming on your program that I thought, I'm like, this is really healthy, but there are certain things that I didn't notice, and a lot of things that I learned through your program. Let me see if I could
Yeah.
share this really quick.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier being on keto. That's one of the popular ones. Keto, Atkins, South Beach, Whole30, macro counting, calorie counting, all these strategies, all these sprint strategies. And even though those
Mm-hmm.
work in the short term, they're just for the long term, they're not very sustainable for most people.
Yeah,
Hmm, hmm.
exactly. So let me just share really quick. So this is a crazy picture of me. This is about 1 month postpartum. This is how I was looking. And then this is about 2 months, like a month after this. I can't believe that this is the photo. And
Hmm.
this is also a month. I had my baby October 8th, and this was me on November 11th. Are you able to see the screen?
Yep, I can see it.
Okay. And then just I'm just looking at like a month difference, in November versus me a month later in December. So making little changes, I just want to encourage anyone watching, making little changes. Like this was from me doing workouts, from really never being someone that worked out like that, and taking out sugar, and no, I didn't take out salt, taking out sugar and drinking more water.
Hmm,
And
hmm.
then I realized so many changes with my diet. This is me April 25th after being on your program
Hmm,
versus me in my last pageant after being on the keto diet.
hmm.
And I saw such a great, like a big transformation in like even just my face, like how slimmer my face was this time around being on this program versus the keto diet. It says like, eat fats and all that stuff. So eating all that bacon,
Mhm, mhm.
and even just like the belly fat difference. And
Yeah.
what made me do this comparison, I put on this dress and I'm like, this dress has never fit me like this. It was so much looser. I'm not used to that dress being loose. So I was like, let me go back and compare the photos. So I just saw a major transformation there in the diets. And this is me at the actual pageant that I just competed in. And I just felt so much more confident in my body, so much more healthier, so much more fit. And then these are the types of things that I was eating after postpartum before coming on with you. But I just didn't have that extra knowledge. So I would just like load my salads with like nuts and a whole bunch of strawberries. Like I didn't understand portion size. And
Right.
that's one of the biggest takeaways that I got from you. Even just like
Mhm,
the portion sizes of like cherry tomatoes and the sugar content in certain fruits and veggies.
mhm,
And
mhm,
then I this is a chickpea rotini pasta. So I knew like I needed better carbs and stuff, or I thought I needed better carbs, but I would load it with like cheese. And I realized that after taking out the dairy, like I'm really sensitive to
mm,
dairy and cheese, and it causes me to break out and um, have a lot of mucus and stuff. And I realized after taking that out, like just a transformation in my skin. And then I would do a lot of smoothies, and I would do these big cups of smoothies with sugar-free whipped cream, and like just bowls of smoothies. And then until, you taught me about blending my smoothies, and I just
mhm,
thought, or blending my fruits, and
mhm.
really showing me, oh, you can't see the photos?
Yeah, I was about to ask if you were showing something because we're still stuck in that. There
Oh,
we go. Okay.
okay, hold on.
Yeah.
Can you see the photos?
Yeah. Yep. Yep. I see him now. I see him now.
Okay, my husband
Before
my
my
husband was
reset.
like, "Can I
Yeah.
see the photos?" Okay, did you guys see these? Did you guys see
Yep.
these
There we
photos?
go. Nope.
Okay.
Nope. Those are. Yep.
Yeah, you see it?
Yep, we see now. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I was just showing, I'll just go back really quick. This was me a month postpartum, and then 2 months postpartum. I just saw a major transformation there. And then from November to December, like I feel like I look like two different people. Like my face was slimming down, everything was slimming down. And then this is just the comparison of me in this dress from when I was on your program, how my face was so much more slim, like my legs, like less belly fat, versus when I wore this dress and I was on the keto diet in the pageant I was in 2022. So I see a major transformation in how that dress fit there. This is me at the pageant. What'd you say?
Radically different. You look
Oh
radically
yeah.
different.
This
Yeah.
is me at the pageant recently, July 8th. Like I felt more confident, just confident in my body. And then these are the types of things that I was eating where I said I thought I was doing great, and it had kind of an effect, but I didn't understand the little things like portion sizes, the sugar content in like certain fruits or cherry tomatoes. And I was eating, even though I was eating healthier starches, I was having like a lot of dairy. And then I was blending a lot of my fruits and making like these smoothies and like these smoothie bowls. And I would just blend a whole bunch of fruit every day. And I was just like an overload of sugar.
Yeah. Yeah. This happens so often, by the way, Karolyne. I mean, people, because when you look at this, you're like, oh, this is pretty healthy, right? But you're absolutely right. It's the combination of the things that you're eating. All foods are not made in heaven, and so
Yeah.
there's a difference. There's a difference. You hear this whole idea of calories in, calories out, and that's partially true, but that's not the whole truth. That's just a truism, which means that certain nutrients will impact you differently. You will absorb those nutrients differently. You will have a different insulin spike depending on the foods. And so, even though this looks super healthy, and most people are probably on this other side thinking, "What's wrong with that?" I get that
Yeah.
a lot. I'm like, I hear it all the time. I'm doing smoothies. I'm. What are you doing for? Well, I'm eating, bananas and apples, and I'm like, whoa, hang on a second. That turns into the Kit Kat of Earth. So.
Yes. And
Yep.
then I just wanted to show a few meals after when I went on the reset with you. And it's like when you go through this program, your standard changes. You have a higher standard. So now what used to be a cheat meal for me, like that's not even in my future anymore. Like now my cheat meals would look like someone's healthy meal. So these are like cheat meals, I'll say, because I like went out to eat. So they might have like some salt or something like that. But this is like a patty or a beef patty with like an egg and then some kale, but then it has some cheese. And then this is healthier. This is like cauliflower rice, but it has like that seasoning. So you talk to me about like what seasonings I'm using. And then this is like probably too much of certain portions of like the cherry tomatoes, but this is probably like the perfect meal that I would eat, which is like I have a salmon and some broccoli and some avocado. But understanding the portion sizes really transform my mind to now I know how to build a plate and build a nutritious meal where I'm not like going by a specific strict guideline. It's just like ingrained in me of how to create that meal. And that's one of my greatest takeaways, because now that helps to make it sustainable.
For sure.
Yeah. So I just wanted to share that. But my question for you is, can you elaborate a little bit more on what makes your program different and just this idea of strengthening your mind, body, and spirit?
Sure. So, for one, I believe that the vast majority of programs out there are what we call sprint strategies. You do well in the beginning, but it's not sustainable long term. So when you look at the carnivore diet, keto, Atkins, South Beach, Whole30, as my buddy Pastor E says, he says high tide, low tide. He said, I tried them all and they just weren't sustainable. The idea there is that you need a transitional phase because you can't always stay in that sprint, right? The sprint is good for 6 to 8 weeks, but then what? Right. And then after that transition period, then what? Right. And so, hence the reason we have 3 phases in our program. We start off very conservative. We reintroduce certain macros that we initially take out because we don't demonize food groups. And then we go into phase 3, which is an 80-20, which says 80% of the time you stick to the parameters, 20% of the time you have some bandwidth to do things you enjoy doing, because food was made to be enjoyed and you should have freedom around food, right? And so we want to get to that freedom. And so, on top of that, we layer that with hyper accountability, which means that, you remember, I was in your back pocket Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. The idea, the idea there was to answer any of your questions, concerns. More importantly, to tap you on the shoulder every other day and say, "Hey, are you heading in the right direction?" Which is super helpful from a motivation standpoint. We've also we've incorporated a lot of the cognitive aspects of nutrition. We believe the battle is in the mind, and so
Mhm.
I can give you the ABCs to lose the weight: eat this, don't eat that. But if we're actually not shifting our relationship to food, nothing will radically change, in the short and the long run. So the idea there is, as a counselor, we're bringing these counseling concepts to the equation, which are very, very powerful. It is well known that counseling oftentimes is more productive, more efficient than actually working with a nutritionist or a dietitian. But
Yeah.
when you actually join all those, a counselor and a nutritionist, it's very, very powerful, because you're not just working on one angle, you're working on all the angles, your mind, you're working on the dynamics aspect of it. And then we also understand that the mind doesn't like complexity. And so we checked out all complexity. We don't count macros, calories, or points.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of people, that's very relieving, right? Um, your last question there about the mind, body, and spirit, we believe that you can't just tackle one thing, right? You can't just, if you just work on your spirit, then it's going to get challenging, because you have a body, you have a mind. And so we also, as I'm a man of faith, and so everything we do is is seen under that lens, that biblical lens. We operate in seasons, as Solomon says in Ecclesiastes, and so this is where we get our phases from. We understand also that oftentimes people are aiming at the wrong challenge. So they'll say, "I have a big appetite. I'm big boned. You don't understand. I'm from Louisiana. I'm from Haiti. I'm from Colombia." you know, and the truth of the matter is, like, hey, okay, sure, there are sometimes some predispositions. I understand that. But the truth is that it's not that you have a big appetite. It's oftentimes that we start to mitigate emotions through food. In other words, we make
Mm.
food our idol, right? And
Mhm.
so we're idolizing food. So anytime you feel sad, happy, or any of those emotions, you're reaching for food. So then the question is, when that happens, you can have all the
Yeah.
ABCs. But if you don't know how to deal with the temptations and the triggers, and you don't know how to self-regulate, that's going to be very, very challenging. And so we believe that you're operating on all engines when you're tackling the mind, the body, and the spirit. And so that's a big part of what we do inside of our program.
Mm, that is so good. Before we move on, I just wanted to pause and say, if you guys want to work with Coach JT, if you want to have a consultation with him, I have put the link in the description box of this video so you can visit his website, learn more about the amazing work he does. He has a lot of proof in the pudding. Like, if you check out his website, there are so many photos of like transformations of people he's worked with. It's amazing. But just touching on some of the things that you said, like, I can resonate with that just in my experience on the program. um I dealt with that. I remember, like, I was so on track and I was seeing progress every week, but then I got busy. And then, which I remember one voice memo you sent me, because I was giving excuses and I'm like, I've been so busy. I had, this conference, I had this retreat to host. And you're like, in the many years I've been doing this, I promise you that there's other people who've been busy. Like, you ain't the only busy one. Like, you didn't say it that way. You said it in a nicer way. But I'm like, okay, he's checking me. So I'm not the only one busy, and other people are doing this. But, me and my busyness, and, I started traveling a lot. There was a part of my process where, like, I fell into cheating, and like I would mess up, and then it creates, like, when you mess up once, then I learned about, insulin and all that stuff, which I didn't even know what that was before. It like creates a ripple effect, and then that addiction, once it gets started, that addiction comes in. And then I remember when I kind of fell off of the program, not completely off, but when I kind of backtracked, I got to a point where I was discouraged. And then that led to emotional eating, because I felt
Mhm.
like, dang, I messed up. Dang, I took a step back. And then I was emotionally eating and I started binging, and I
Mhm.
started
Mhm.
like looking for loopholes of things that like would seem healthy but weren't really healthy. Like I was binging on
Mhm.
like peanut butter and popcorn. Um but you like really confronted me one day, and like that's what's so powerful about having a coach and a counselor, all these different aspects that you say you bring to it,
Mhm.
because knowing how to, mold in or become all these different, I guess, things I need in that moment. Like when when I need a coach, you're a coach. When I need someone straight up to be like, you're addicted to food, or like this is spiritual. Like, are you spending time in your word? Like you were able to do that, and I had to check myself. But there's so much in this process that's not just like the. And I started getting anxiety, by the way, like giving. I remember one week I was like, can I just not even tell you my numbers? Like, can we
Yeah,
skip
yeah.
this week?
Can I not be accountable this week?
Yeah, I didn't want to. I was like, okay, I don't want to do it this week.
Yeah.
But I learned a lot about myself, and it actually pushed me to grow spiritually, and it made me desire to want to fast. So, I was on this nutrition plan, but towards the end, I was like, okay, I need to be built up in the fruit of the spirit. I need some more self-control. I need some more this and that. Like, what is going on? So how I was responding to just the program, like towards the end when I was emotionally eating, revealed in me, okay, I need to be strengthened spiritually in certain areas,
Mm.
to where
Mhm.
I closed out the program with a fast, because I
Mhm.
felt like I
Mhm.
spiritually needed to just reconnect and just be right. But it was an
Yeah.
amazing experience. It had its ups and downs. But what advice can you give to someone who like is on a weight loss journey, or a fitness journey, and they have those like discouraging moments where it's like they took 10 steps forward, but then they feel like they took 12 steps back, and they get into those emotions and they feel like giving up? Like, how can they stay motivated even in the midst of busyness, even in the midst of having the family and doing things like that?
Yeah. So you mentioned a couple of things in there when you opened up that first loop, and that you said busy, right? And busy is just a shift in priorities. And I think that's important to recognize because we're always looking for an scapegoat. We're always saying, well, I have things going on. Well, this week, things happened. And I'm sure things happen, and I'm sure life gets busy. I'm not taking that away. But when you drop the ball in that area, it's simply because you shifted your priorities to something else. And so that's one thing, and I think that's really important. Second to that, I think that taking personal ownership, which
Mm,
is tough and hard to look at ourselves in the mirror and say, I dropped the ball, right? How do okay, I had a bad day, or I had a bad week. How do I had
yeah,
right?
yeah.
I had a bad week. And then being able to shift into uncommon accountability, which I call it uncommon accountability, because we have this we have the sense of self-preservation, and
Mm,
we don't want to look silly in front of people. So what we have a tendency to do is shift it to something else. Well, my husband, well, I went to this party. But the
yeah.
truth is, you do have the ability to do things right. You can be
Mm,
proactive before you go to a party, you go to an event where you're going to be triggered and tempted. If you're coming into a busy season, that success starts the night before. So we talk a lot about these things, about having a time with yourself where you're intentionally writing out what's going to happen before it actually happens, so that your mind is highly aware of the distractions that are going to come, but you have a plan. You see, there's a difference between getting hit by the storm without putting the shutters up versus having the shutters up. So,
Mhm.
if you're prepping and things are coming, then you're being proactive
Yeah.
versus reacting to your environment. I think oftentimes that's what happens. People just react to their environment. And, if you have not reset your palate, which is a huge thing we speak about
Mm.
in the program, right? Which is the ability to neutralize the salty, sugary things that you love so much because it secretes dopamine. This is why we see the world of nutrition through this whole lens of addiction. Dopamine is that neuroreceptor that's associated with well-being. So anytime we feel down, bored, up, down, any of those high, low emotions, we're seeking for a dopamine hit. So when you reset your palate, what you actually do is you also reset your dopamine centers, right? You bring them into homeostasis, which is a balance. Now, I'm not having to say, Caroline, don't eat this or don't eat that. Your palate has just naturally changed. And no one has to tell you to do anything. You're just a different person, right? You're making
Mhm.
different choices. And that's very, very empowering. And that's one of the things that we really emphasize inside of the program is we need to reset our palate. We need to reset the way your brain perceives reward. And when that happens, you become a powerful human being because now you're making choices. Your mind is
Yeah.
no longer sequestered by dopamine. You're making very intentional, very proactive decisions.
Wow. That's amazing. And what you said about resetting your palate, like that has happened to me because that literally happened this morning. Yesterday I told my husband to go to the store and get some sugar-free yogurt. And this morning I took a spoon of the yogurt immediately and I immediately like tasted like I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this has sugar in it." And I looked and it had sugar in it. And I
Right.
was able to just tell just from a taste of it versus like I probably wouldn't even notice that, but now my palate is just so sensitive to that. And now I'm like naturally just making healthier decisions and integrating healthier decisions. A lot of times there's always a sugar-free version that you can get or salt-free or sodium-free. So just like even those little changes now is just like it's instinctual for me to make those changes, but it's because I went through this process where I removed those things that we grow up trained eating these processed foods and things like that. So retraining your palate, that's so powerful.
That's super powerful, and it makes you highly aware. Like you said, you just simply put that in your mouth, and automatically you knew. Whereas before, that would have just that would have gone right over your head. And I think that that's powerful because it's very similar to the first time you try something. You try. I recently saw a video on YouTube of an African tribe that tried Twizzlers for the very first time, and the guy actually spit it out. he's like the guy's like, what is in this, because he hasn't gotten his palate accustomed to that amount of sugar. He lives out in the African savannah, so they're eating all natural foods. He put all this preserved stuff in his mouth. It was like, so
Yeah.
when you go through a cleansing process, very much like that tribal leader, that happens. You're like, oh, that's too salty, that's too sugary, and then you just naturally pull away. So
Wow. That's
mhm,
amazing. A few years
mhm.
ago, actually, um, I don't know if it was my 24th or 25th birthday. A few years ago, I felt for my birthday that I wanted to go on a transformation journey. And I called it the Transformation Challenge. And I actually invited my subscribers to come on it with me. And we went through this transformation journey. And through that journey, it was really a big focus on transformation of the mind, transformation of the spirit, but I didn't really have that physical aspect there because I had never really gone through a physical transformation. So now I just want to reintroduce that challenge. Anyone can join it. The Transformation Journey Challenge. I'll link it below. But if you're thinking of working um, with Coach JT, and if you're going to sign up below to, book a consultation with him, this is just a free resource to help you as you are on the journey with him. This transformation journey, if you join it, it'll help you have the right mindset and go through that shift mentally and spiritually. So it can work together as you're going through that transformation with him. Um, on a physical level, but he also touches on the mental and the spiritual and the mind as well. But this is just an extra resource to support you. So Coach JT, you share that, it's moderate and normal numbers to expect 25 to 30 pounds of weight loss on your program. So can you tell us, like, statistically, what is the percentage of people that are actually able to reach this? And that's one of the reasons I was also confident in working with you, because you were so confident. You're like, oh yeah, we can get you down. Oh yeah, we can do this. I'm like, how is he so sure of this? But you
Yeah.
were so confident. So I was like, okay, if he's sure that, we can do this in this certain amount of time, then I'm all for it.
Yeah. Confidence is being able to remember success. And we have a lot
Mm,
of testimonies, right? We have a lot of testimonies. We've been doing this for a long time. So we're not trying to figure things out on the fly. We're not building the airplane in the air. It's 23 years, 2 decades of just fine tuning everything we do. And so we know for a fact if a person comes in, they're ready in their heart of hearts, meaning they're willing to be committed versus interested. There's a huge difference there. The committed
mm,
person does whatever is necessary. The interested person does whatever is convenient. If you're
mm,
committed, if you're ready in your heart of hearts, and you're coachable, meaning that in this noisy nutrition world where everyone's a guru and everyone's an expert, you listen to one coach
yeah.
and you follow what that coach says. And you put me to the test and you say, hey, if I do A, B, and C, you guarantee this outcome. And the answer is 100%, right? Out of 10 people that come through a program, 8 people are successful. Now, what do I mean by success? Success doesn't just mean you lose the weight. Success means that you keep a blueprint for life, and where if you continue to follow those principles, which have a lot of
Mm,
freedom around them, you will sustain those results for the rest of your life. And yo-yo dieting and all the issues that you've had around weight will subside once and for all. I can say that, and I can sleep at night with that idea with no problem. My conscience is
yeah.
clean. My wife says, you fall asleep so quickly. I said, I have a clean conscience. But
Yeah.
that's the idea. The idea truly is that these concepts are powerful, they're sustainable, they're easy, and then you have a coach that's holding you hyper accountable, someone that you can count on step by step. You have access to me 6 days a week. Sundays is the only day that I duck and I dodge. That's family day, church day. But other than that, it's an ongoing conversation that's always open to those people that decide to come on board.
I love that. And I just think it's so generous of you, like the amount of value that is offered through the program, and that you're just willing to give it away and give us this information and teach us the basics that makes it sustainable, and that makes us able to just move on and live with it for life, versus like someone else may hold back that information because they want you to be on a subscription or they want you to keep working with them year after year. It's like you just freely give it, and it's just so valuable. So just thank you for that. Thank you for what you do. And
Absolutely.
also I feel like even just the talks that you would have, like the workshops, like
The
all the
webinars, yeah.
workshops,
Hmm.
the webinars that you have,
Yeah. Yeah.
and just listening to that, like on my walks, that was super helpful. But I came into it because I remember before I had joined, you saying that, like, make sure that you're not your own coach. Like, you listen to, what your coach says, and don't try to self-coach yourself. And I'm like, oh, I'm coachable. Like, I got this. Like, I'm gonna listen.
Yeah.
But it's hard when you're really in it and your flesh is screaming and you start questioning stuff and you start looking on Google and you're like, is this really true? What does this person say? What does that person say? So that's one of the challenges that I had. But I really saw the effects of when I did trust the process and when I did listen to you and was coachable, being able to see those results. So
Mhm.
just a tip for anyone who is, gonna reach out and who is serious and who's ready to be committed, right? And ready to take that next step, like, be coachable, like, just listen. He knows what he's talking about. He's been through this and has the experience. So
Yeah.
yeah.
You think of this whole idea of coachability, because everyone says, this is one of the questions I ask in my questionnaire, are you coachable? And everyone says Yes, right. I have yet in 23 years to hear someone say no, right? And so everyone, we all say we're coachable until friction happens, right? Until we get
Mhm.
tempted by something. You think of, Genesis chapter 1 and 2. Adam and Eve had everything they could ever want,
Mm.
and they were just told one thing, one boundary, like, hey, don't eat of
Wow.
that tree, right? Don't eat of the fruit of that tree, for the tree of good and evil. And yet they
Mhm.
decided to do it, and that came as a byproduct of not being coachable. And so, you know, I think oftentimes when we go into situations and we just we decide not to be coachable, it becomes very, very tricky. That's where all the noise comes in. But this is why I say, put me to the test, right? If you do every single thing I say, and 90 days from now, you're not where you need to be, and you've done everything I've asked you to do, right? Not only will I coach you until you get there, because that's the guarantee, but yeah, the truth is you're not, you're going to be successful. And so being coachable is a huge component. Not, we're not asking for perfection, we're asking for progress, right? We subscribe to that idea of progress. No one's perfect, and so you're going to make some mistakes. The journey is not linear, but we do some pretty powerful things that move you forward very quickly, build that momentum, and that's very exciting. I mean, we have people that radically, our testimonies on Google are not just I lost weight, but I came into this program with the idea of losing weight, and I've radically changed all aspects of my life, because how you do anything is how you do everything. And so it's just a beautiful process. It's not just losing weight; it's actually transforming from the inside out. um, when you look at it from an intrinsic perspective, when you look at it from a stewardship perspective, I'm doing this as a spiritual discipline. Food is spiritual, hence the reason we say grace before we eat. And so
Mhm.
when we tie it into that why, I'm doing this because I want to honor my creator through the way I
Yeah.
eat. Which, that idea inside of Christianity is very cloudy, but
Mm.
the other two major religions are very, they know Judaism
Wow.
and Islam.
Mm.
They fast more than anyone. Jews have a kosher diet because it's always associated with glorifying God. It's just the Christians that kind of are fuzzy around that whole idea.
Mm. Yeah.
And um and so we know, that this is a spiritual component, and when you tie it into that, it becomes very, very powerful. It goes from being something aesthetic to being something that truly has an eternal impact.
Wow. Wow. And you know what? This program really reset me um in so many different ways, and I needed that. And there were so many issues that I had that I didn't even realize was an issue. Like hopefully this is not TMI, but I wasn't regular. I wasn't regular in a healthy way. Like I would go a
Mhm.
long time and I was just reset.
Yeah.
So like even just as that, like my whole body functions differently now, and I can feel it, and I can feel a difference in how what I'm eating is impacting me. and be and it's crazy that it's just 90 days. Like my transformation, right, from postpartum to the pageant was 9 months, but you came in the last 90 days and kind of just, sped me off and like just gave me a strong finish. So I just love that people are able to get that much in 90 days because it's backed by science. It's the mind and spirit work, it's proven strategies versus like what I was doing over those months. I was getting results, but I was kind of just like shooting and hoping I catch something and just doing what I thought worked and trying to figure it out on my own. But having you as a coach and guiding me and checking in with me every week in that accountability was super helpful. So guys, definitely check the link below, check out his website, have a consultation with him, if you want to learn more questions and ask. But is there any, what is a last takeaway that you would give to anyone maybe on the fence of starting, or I don't know, what is that last takeaway that you would give for someone who really desires a true transformation and change, but there's something holding them back, or they feel like they keep ending up in the same cycles and the same habits as they were before?
Yeah, I think the big bottleneck for most people in moving forward is the trust factor, right? Trust has been violated because we live
Mm,
in a diet society. We live in a guru society. It's noisy. Everyone is saying something. Nowadays, anyone that has a mic is an influencer, and so
mm,
I I'm in these circles sometimes where I see these coaches, these nutrition coaches I started coaching 3 months ago, and they're now the experts because they read a book or they went through a course. And it's like you wanna work with someone who's been in the trenches. You wanna work with someone that doesn't have just the knowledge of nutrition, but actually can zigzag in and out of the cognitive process, the dynamics, that is an actual coach and can ask powerful questions. When I quote unquote confronted you, I did that in the form of questions. I never said
mhm.
you're doing this or you're doing that. I would
Yeah.
just say, when someone comes to me and I know that they're mitigating emotions, my first question is, hey, how's your devotional time? Because I want to know, right, what the relationship with God is. Where are
Yeah.
they in that aspect? Or someone says, I'm really, really busy. And then I say, when did your priorities shift?
Mhm.
Because now that turns on the light bulb and it says, wait a second, I'm pointing at this, but it's really this. So
Yeah.
those interactions are super powerful. So I would say to that person on the fence, that person that, you've experienced all these other programs, you've done the yo-yo dieting, you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, but you know that you need to do something, right? I would say, when you hear someone on the other side, I'm always looking for this because I'm on a lot of different calls with other coaches for other things inside of our organization. When I hear a coach say, um, I recently said to a guy, I said, do you have any guarantees? And he asked me
Mm,
the best question. He answered the best way. He said, "What would you like for your guarantee to be?" Right? And I was like, "Oh." I was like, "Well, I want to make sure that everything that you're telling me is going to actually happen, and if it doesn't happen, I want to be able to hold you accountable." He said, "Done." And this is what I'm
mm,
saying, right? I'm saying, "Hey, give it the benefit of the doubt. Come on. If you're coachable, if you're ready in your heart of hearts, take the leap of faith because on the other side of that, there's transformation,
yeah.
radical transformation in all areas of life." So there you go.
Man, I love that. That was so
Yeah.
amazing. So, I really hope that you guys received a ton of value from today's podcast and interview with Coach JT. His program is amazing. It's life changing. I showed you guys the picture, the proof, but you have to be willing to put in the work. You have to be willing to take accountability when you're wrong. You have to be willing to listen and be coachable. And like I said, take advantage of my free transformation journey below as well while you're on this journey to have that extra layer of support. Just know I'm here to support you along the journey. And you can just shoot me any questions, I guess, that you have throughout the process if you need. But I love you guys. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If it's your first time on my channel, definitely subscribe. And if you think that this would be helpful to someone else, please do not hesitate to share it with a friend. All right. I love you guys so much. Thank you so much, Coach JT, for coming on and just sharing your amazing wisdom with us. Just thank you for everything that you do. I'll see you guys in my next YouTube video. Until next time, bye.